Right, so I've been meaning to do a video and for quite some time now, and I just haven't gotten around to it, and I guess it's kind of okay because now I have more to add to it, and so that means it's going to be a much longer video. So I think for those of you who know me, and for those of you who are new, I spend probably about 70% of my thought process um, just kind of trying to uh, think about and fathom the existential world, um, the mechanical and physical abilities of the natural world, and really trying to understand what and who we are, why we're here, where we come from, where we're going, and mainly the purpose. I was in a Telegram live chat the other day. Not the other day, it was probably actually just a couple months ago. And it turned into a whole big silly debacle about I don't even know what it was about. A lot of people's ego. But one girl uh, by the name, I'm not even going to mention the name. I'm not going to give them this glory. She asked a very vague question, which we did poke fun at because it's funny, like to think we have a sense of humor. She asked this question, what do you believe in? And I'm an Aspie. I have wrong planet syndrome, and so were a couple of other peoples, very deep thinkers and very considerate of large questions. And one of the things we like to do is define the terms and parameters. So she asked what I believe in, and the immediate response from a gentleman was, that's a very vague question. I believe in blue shoeboxes. It was a very funny answer, and it was quite philosophical when you think about it, because 34 years on the planet, you're going to want to sit down and get out a pen and paper to go over all of the things that we believe in. But I came to kind of realize something deep and pretty profound about myself. I don't believe in anything, and that's one of the things that she was pointing out. Um, One of the things I notice about, excuse me, belief systems is that they are a theory. They are mainly just a theory that you would like to be true. So, take for instance the sun. You can believe that the sun will rise, but you can also understand it. It rises every day. You can believe in anything that you have no tangible evidence of, and it's something that you want to be real or you fear to be real. Either which way, it comes from some definition of a desire and a lack of evidence. So I I don't have really an admitted belief system, but what I do have is a series of understandings. So this video is going to go over some of the things that I've come to understand about the mechanics of the natural and spiritual world, about God, about our purpose, our existence, and the tangible and metaphysical reality that we exist in and perceive. I'm going to start off by reading, um, I'm actually going to read a Bible quote. So that's strange coming from me, I know, because it's postulated that I'm a witch or a pagan of some sort. Um, I can't debunk that for you because you don't get to see me in my personal space, but I have no knowledge of casting spells at this time. I've read you know, some of the literature, but at this point in time, I have never casted a spell. I've also never needed to, almost as superstitious as I may seem to be. So this verse is in Matthew chapter 6. It's one of my favorites. I think it's in Matthew chapter 6. I'm not good at number recall. But it goes, consider the lilies of the field and how they grow. They toil not, nor do they spin. Yet I say unto you, Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. But if God doth so clothe the lilies of the field, which are here today and cast into the oven tomorrow, why should he not much more clothe you, O ye of little faith? Be there, how does it go? Be therefore not anxious, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For your heavenly Father knows that you have need of all these things. But seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and righteousness, and these things shall be added unto you. And I think that's a very deep code. I have a lot of arguments with things in the Bible, but this part is like a hint or like a key. So I kind of want to dive into that. When it says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, I think what that's saying is to actually seek to understand and to delve into the curiosity and to explore and discover. That's part of this experience. Okay, and I'll get into experience is such a big word because I think that's the main, from what I understand, this is the main purpose of existence at all in general. Um, and then righteousness. That's like the catch, right? You want to do things in the highest possible good for yourself and for others who are perceiving. Um, so first you need to seek to understand. Okay, you want to seek to understand, and then you want to um, do all of your deeds with righteousness. You want to try to understand how you can do things the best way that you could you could perceive or that you could conceptualize. You that's and that's where you're going to find faith, because you're going to need to know that a lot of people are here trying to decide if this is a test, if there's a right or wrong answer, if there's what have you, if there's a way that we're supposed to live or something that'll tell us the difference. But I think you'll notice, and I'm a big believer in karma, so this is going to be more of a Hindu thing. And I've read all of the different, not all of them, but I've read a lot of the different religious and philosophical texts, sacred texts. I've read Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Bible, New and Old Testament. I've read the Nag Hammadi. I've read the Apocrypha. I've read the Tibetan Book of the Dead. I've read some of the Vedic teachings. Um, God, I could really just go on and on and on and on about everything that I have done to come to understand what I know about, the natural world, our nature, our purpose, and from if you believe that they're prophets or messengers or divine people or beings that have come here to give us keys and clues and paths um, along the way. So this is part of everything that I'm constantly trying to understand. And I know one thing that I really use to kind of guide my life is this something that a crazy or a mean person would do? If the answer is yes, then I don't do that thing. If I am trying my best, and if I am completing tasks the best way that I can, and if I am going for the best things, what I have found are real life miracles. I think that when people hear the term miracle, they think it only happens in books or narrations or to prophets, or that it couldn't happen to them. But I think that's part of the nature of reality, is that these things will be added unto you. You're here to have an experience. And the in a little bit, I'm going to get into the actual mechanical and physical properties of God, from what I understand and what I've come to find in this life, in 34 years of literally exploring it. And it's been um, some people won't call it God. Some people will call it, well, I don't know, maybe the Higgs and boson, maybe something else. But another thing that I want to read is Upanishads. And it goes, as a man's desire is, so is his destiny. For as his desire, so is his will. And as his will, so is his deed. And as his deed, so is his reward, whether good or bad. This is another clue. I think I mentioned a second ago that it comes from Upanishads. And it's kind of translated in the paragraph right after. It says, a man acts according to the desires which he clings, and after death he goes to the next world, bearing in his mind the subtle impressions of his deeds. And after reaping in the harvest of his deeds, he returns again to the world of action. There, or thus, he who has desire continues to be subject to rebirth. Okay, so I feel like this is a clue about the physics of what it means to be alive, the physics of the natural world, and the physics of what animates living things and people. So I'm going to segue into what I've been, just kind of the path that I've taken recently. So I do not believe in any, I do not agree. When I use the term belief, or believe, it means agree with, okay? So just to define terms. I don't agree with any sort of totalitarian dictatorship. I do not agree with, I don't agree with controlling the will of others. I think that the will that we've been given is this free will. It is divine. It's a divine gift, and it's part of the purpose it's coupled with the experience. You cannot have the experience that you were created to have if the will has been revoked. Then it is no longer your experience, other than literal hell. So, um, I have this dream. It's a reoccurring dream. It's happened ever since I was little. I'm captured or something. I go to a prison, and I'm in this prison, and it's in many mediums. The prison could be on an island, it could be in a building, it could be in just a room, it could be in a field, it could be in the sky. It's been in all different places, this prison. There are other people in this prison with me. The thing about it is, um, we're there because we broke a construct of a rule, and this is how it's deemed that we'd be punished, is to be locked away in this prison. But the thing about it is, we can leave. We can leave at any time. There's nothing really to stop us. There's a few walls sometimes there's guards, sometimes. But a lot of the prison that we're in is self-imposed with our complicit behavior. And we don't leave. Or I leave. I can leave, and while in this prison, I will say what's keeping us here. And they'll say, well, we have to be here. And then I'll say, well, we can leave. And then they'll say, but you're not supposed to leave. And then I'll say, well, if we don't want to be here and we can leave, why don't we leave? So then they say, because we broke a rule, so we're supposed to be here. And that's how it goes. That's how it works. And then so I say, okay, well, I'm going to leave. So they say, well, you can't. And I say, well, I can. And they say, anyway, so what ends up happening is I leave, and then I adventure around, and then after a while, I come back, I sneak back in, and then they say, where have you been? And I say, well, I left. And they'll say, well, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to be here. You know, you broke another rule, and it's only going to get worse for you. And I say, no, it's not a rule that I made, and it's not a rule that I agree with. So it doesn't matter. And I can leave, so I leave. And then I came back. Well, and somebody says, well, why are you back? And I said, I just wanted to let you guys know that when I left, I didn't die. Nothing bad happened to me, so I'm back. And I'm not staying back, but I just wanted to show you that we can leave. If you want, we can leave. We don't have to do this anymore. And then they'll say, well, we're not supposed to. We're here because we broke a rule. So I'll say, well, did you make the rule? Is it a reasonable rule? Do you agree with it? Or is that just how you've been trained to believe things are supposed to be? And they'll say it doesn't matter, because this is what it is. It will always be this way. So then I say, well, I'm gonna leave, and if anybody else wants to leave, you could come with me. A couple people think that they want to leave, and they get scared to leave for whatever reason. So because they're gonna miss people, or what if they get caught, then they'll get in even more trouble and what have you. So I end up leaving again, and then I the next time I when I go and adventure around and play, and then come back. But this time I come in through the front door, and the guards grab me, or the front entrance or whatever. Sometimes it's an island, so there's like a bridge or something. The guards will grab me and be like, how did you get out? And I'll be like, oh, I just did. And then, they'll say, well, you can't go out. You have to stay. And then I'll say, well, okay. So they bring me to whatever confinement, and they lock me up, and then we have a little social time with each other, and then the people say, oh, see, you got caught this time. And I say, no, I came in through the front door. And they say, well, why did you come here? And I said, well, because I wanted to show you that I left, and I can just walk in the front door. And I can leave again whenever. Okay, well, they say, well, you're not supposed to, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We broke the rules. We have to stay in here now. You broke more. Now it's worse for you. Now you're going to be in here longer, whatever. And I said, I'm not going to be in here longer because I'm going to leave again. And they said, well, you're not supposed to leave. It's against the rules. And then I say, well, I am. And they say, well, we're going to tell on you. I say, why would you tell on me? They'll say, because it's the rules. You have to do what the rules say, and that's the way it is, and that's how it is. I say, do you agree with this? And they say, it doesn't matter. This is how we live. This is what we live by. And then I say, why would you live like this if you don't have to? And then I'll say, well, I'm going to leave anyway. And they'll say, well, no, you're not, because you're going to start following the rules. You're going to start doing what the rest of us do. And I say, well, no, I'm not. I'm going to do what I want to have, the experience that I want to have. And I'm not hurting anybody. And I'm trying to help you have the best of your experiences if you want to. So they scream and yell as I go to leave. And they cause attention, and the guards come say, no, you can't leave. And then they lock me up a little bit. And there's another way. There's all these other ways. There's like a million ways to leave. And so I leave. Again. And this time I stay gone for a long time, and I adventure around, and there's a few others out, and I have a good time. And in the meantime, every so often, occasionally, I come back. I avoid the people who told on me, and I just visit the others who are trapped in there that are just too scared to leave, because they're scared of what happens when they get caught, as if they won't be able to leave again. I think that says a lot about the generator functions of Windows game theory and how society is. We are born with this free will, yet there are others who want to control what we do with it. And I think that's kind of an issue. The divine gift is the free will. You are free to think and choose and do whatever you're going to, as long as it doesn't infringe upon others, or if it does, there will be karma. And that's the thing about the lilies of the field. That whole Matthew chapter 6, you will be provided for if you seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and righteousness and all the things that you do. And you have this experience and you enjoy it. That's kind of the challenge here. And it doesn't mean just do whatever and everything's going to be okay, because it isn't. But there's a difference, right? There's a difference with different people and their deeds and justification. Of course, there are things that are unjust. But because of karma, justice does occur, and your hands are clean of it. Vengeance and vendettas for the sake of retribution are detrimental to the miracles or the paths that could open up to you, because you will learn and you will have the experience that you create, and you will be forced to be given lessons that you need to understand, because you will be forced to understand, or you will repeat and suffer and go without and be controlled and lose that freedom if you don't utilize it in a good way, if you don't give this experience what it's meant to have. So, moving on. I'm going to term this being or deity or whatever as God for the rest of this video and maybe my life or what have you. And please understand that the way that I conceptualize this is probably extremely different from the way that you conceptualize this, but I hope that I could bring maybe some demystification of the mystical and some understanding, or maybe you could relate to what I've come to understand through my studies and through my journey and my adventure as a bipedal tetrapod on this planet that we call Earth. So, through attempting to program computers or learn the language of programs, what I've noticed is that computers are programmed in a like a binary fashion. We have control over them, so they perform the functions that we tell them to. So while the screen is animated, there's a program, there is a code within it that tells it, if I tell you this, then you do that. If I tell you this, then you do that. If I click this button, then you turn on. If I click this button 2 times, then you prompt me and tell me to stop clicking it. So this is programmed to meet the stimulus with a specified response. It's binary. If the stimulus is given, the response is given. If the stimulus is not given, there is not a response given, or whatever else. Organic creatures and the laws of the organic world are not as binary or deterministic as this. And that is because of the way that we are coded. My Matrix friends, hi, those of you from Beyond the Veil. Shout out to BTV and the Beyond the Veil tribe. My Matrix friends are going to hear code and maybe their ears are going to perk up, but through computers there is a deterministic and a binary code which responds to a certain set of stimulus and buttons. However, we are coded as organic creatures, while plants and birds and animals and humans are coded differently. We're not a series of on-off switches or logic gates. While we do have a certain logic gate format, we have something called a genetic code, and that is our DNA. And I really want to, I really kind of want to demystify what that means. So, when you picture DNA, you're going to get probably an image, and I'm just drawing something out, right? That looks like, like this. This is going to be like a DNA strand, straight up and down. But the truth of the matter is it's woven like this, like a ladder. And I'm just drawing out another version. So the DNA is woven. That is from facing this way, but it's not facing this way. If you look at it this way, it's like a spiral. Okay. It's like a spiral, and it's woven really tight. And through the DNA runs an infinite non-destructive charge compression, which becomes explosive at the center of it, causing a cold plasma implosion, which creates a vortex, right? There is an energy there's an energy that runs through your genetic code. And it's explosive, and that's what gives you the ability to be animated. Spirit fingers. That's what gives you the ability to be animated, and animates all things. All living things have this in common, and all living things have another thing in common, that they have DNA. DNA is the maximum constructive wave interference, and it's the code that creates the wave interference for that non-destructive charge compression plasma vortex energy field that runs through you. So you're gonna be like, what the fuck are you saying? And I'm gonna tone it down for a second, and I'm gonna kind of explain another thing about physics to you. You've probably heard the hippie say, or maybe even Bill Hicks, for instance, say, all, a young man on acid realized that all matter and all things are merely, oh gosh, I have it memorized, but I guess because the camera's on, I'm a little bit more nervous. But everything is a vibration, right? Everything has a vibratory field. It's all matter and all things are just slow vibrations moving through. And when we think of a vibration, we think of this shape here, right there, okay? Well, the thing about that vibration is that's you looking at it like this, not like this. This vibration looks like this. A spiral, just like the DNA, okay? This is a charge cloud. This is a charge, right? Positive and negative, up and down. It's a spin or it's a zigzag, whatever you choose to perceive. And if it resonates fast enough, it creates light. This is what we know as sololuminescence. If you take two vibrating things and you put them over a bubble of liquid and they're vibrating in a certain frequency, they can create light in the middle. And we found that you can look at videos of sololuminescence, and I think that's how that we are going to be able to build fusion reactors in the future. It's an infinite way of creating light energy. And we just discovered, I think it was 2 years ago, I think in a September or a July, we discovered that when you collide those light vibrations, photons, particles, those light particles, when you collide them, they create matter. That's a pretty profound idea. And so even if you look through the Hindu texts, the biblical texts, and what have you, you can decode the creation stories, and you can see that there was a voice, so that was their sound, your wave resonance, that created a light, and that then light created matter. So this has been physics since forever. Resonance creates light, light creates matter. So back to DNA, and you, and your ability to perceive, and God, and everything else. Everything, right? So through your DNA runs an infinite non-destructive charge compression, which becomes explosive at the center, causing a cold plasma implosion. That's the implosion that happens. This is happening at the center. There's that energy that I'm talking about that runs through all living things, that explodes and gives it the ability to become animated. These are tiny little explosions, obviously. And the DNA is the code. Everybody's different, right? You don't have the same genetic code as your dog or your brother or your best friend. Every genetic code is different. Okay, the DNA, that genetic code, causes a very specific wave interference pattern. So it causes that energy to have the interference to make the living thing, what it is. Okay, and again, everything is vibration. So let's talk about, now you know that how you are what you are in the code. Now let's talk about how you can perceive and what time is. So you're going to think about it. Pressure or tension creates voltage, right? And the rate of flow of that voltage is going to be your amperage. And again, this also creates mass, which can be coined as matter. And as it becomes, let me see how I can word this. As it becomes centripetal, this energy, and everything else, that's how you're going to get your perception of time. Time is it's the charge rotation that it takes to get to the center, where the inertia is stored, where the explosion's happening. That period of charge rotation is your ability to perceive time, right? So now you have the ability to be animated, and now you have an ability to perceive time. So time isn't going to speed up or slow down, only the rate of rotation is going to increase or decrease. And that's going to that's going to play a big role in the way that you perceive time. Everybody has a biological clock, right? You age, you what have you. You are negentropic, right? So if you cut yourself, that cut can heal. They've even been able to see that people can heal their fingers. Um, they've been able to anyway. You can heal. You're negentropic. You gain from disorder. You're what Nissim Taleb's coins as anti-fragile. You are chaos theory in a body, right? It's your consciousness is housed in the resonance of the alignment of your dipoles in your neurotransmitters, right? So you have these little bumps or holes. Those would be called your dipoles, and they spin like records. And that the resonance of that spin is the narrative voice in your body. That energy that I was talking about that runs through is what gives your body that voice and the ability to perceive what it perceives and hold the information. Sorry, I have to adjust myself. And hold the information um, of your experience in your memories and in your thoughts, and then translate them. So that's the code of living things. So when I was younger, you know, I I used to say more on God, right? My grandmother, she actually just passed away on New Year's Eve around noon or 1 o'clock Central Time. Um, she was probably the only family member that I was really close to through the decade of my 20s, or maybe 2 decades from my teens and my 20s. She had a really funny sense of humor, really dark sense of humor, and she was pretty esoteric, and so was I. When I was very little, I, you know, I was out with her on a balcony, and I said to her, this was the conversation that we had every time we got off the phone. It was one of her and my favorite memories of our experience together. I must have been about, a year or two old, just then speaking, and I don't know how I knew this, but I said to my grandmother, I said, Nan, where's God? And she pointed way up in the sky at all of the stars over the balcony, and I had to look through the balcony to see what she's pointing at. And she said, he's way, way up there in the sky, looking down upon us through the stars and making sure that we're okay and, performing miracles. And I pulled her down by the shoulder and I said, no, Nan, he's not there. And immediately she she scoffs. She says, yes, he is. The creepy things kids say. And I put my hand on her chest and I said, no, he's not there. He's right here in your heart. And, you know, to know that as a kid, or to realize that, or to understand that, in the elementary juvenile way that I was explaining it, led me down quite a pivotal road. And especially to have that reinforced in the conversations over and over and over again. Because I thought to myself, um, about God and what makes God God and what makes us us and why are we here. God has several properties, and these are the things I seek to understand. God is omniscient. God knows everything there is to know. God is omnipresent. God is everywhere there is to be. And God is omnipotent. Is all of the power that there is. That there is. And I think to myself, how can something be everywhere there is to be, know everything there is to know, and have all the power there is to have? And then it dawned on me. In order to be omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, you would have to be that which is perceiving. And what runs through all of that which is perceiving? What is having the experience? And I thought about, what would God want? What does God want with us? In the void, there is nothing. And if God existed in a void, then there is a chance that God wanted for something. And I considered the fractal world. When you hold a mirror to a mirror, an infinite observable fractal is created, and the perception of that can only be perceived by a witness. And so you have your existence, your housing, your purpose. How do you think God knows what you're thinking, or what you want, or what you need? How do you think that could ever be possible if there was a God? And how could God be everywhere there is to be if it's staring down at us from the stars? I challenge this understanding. What is having this experience right now through all living things is that desire of God to have this experience, because what else is there to do in a void? This is more that I want to think about, you know, like, if you knew, I think so many believers in God or Jesus and everything else are so pragmatic. Like, if you knew that when you prayed that nothing would be listening, like, sometimes I feel like they don't even believe in what they're saying. They believe that in order for it to be real, it has to be accompanied by ignorance and a lack of understanding. Therefore, it is a sin to seek to understand, even though it says seek ye first in their Bible and among other texts. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and the righteousness. Okay? There is a quantum entanglement, right? There is an entanglement. We've discovered this. We have proof of it. Things are connected. Um, and again, I say, like, if you knew that when you prayed that nothing would be listening, even though something could, and that someone was listening but they would never help, would you still pray? For real? I mean, do you believe that, like, this God has your highest and best in mind if you don't have your highest and best in mind? How do you create hell? What are the dynamics of that? What if you like the feeling of burning? It couldn't just be fire and brimstone unless you absolutely hated it, right? And then do you do you believe do you believe in miracles? Like, do you if you believe in God, do you believe in miracles? Okay, well, do you believe in miracles for yourself or just others that you read about? Do you believe that they could happen for you? And how and if a miracle happened, how often would you rationalize it away? Would you rationalize it away and say that it wasn't what it is as a coincidence? How often would you do that? Karma karma is your lessons. It's your experience. And it's the experience that seeks to grow. It's gonna happen. It's a bitch too. But it's also a miracle, depending on what you're seeking and your deeds. I've and I want to say this. Because your experience is your purpose, I will tell you that the attention is the currency of your soul itself. If you think of currency as what you will reap, so you pay for something and you get the thing you pay for. You pay attention, and what you pay attention to, you reap, right? Um, your brain is built in a certain way, right? This DNA, this genetic code, and it's built to carry out certain actions, and those actions, the way your attention is, your brain is going to adapt with the way that it's built, right? It's serotonin is going to be produced or not produced, and dopamine and oxytocin, our favorite, right? What you pay attention to, you have so much power in your life with your attention, which leads to your deeds, which leads to your understanding and everything else. And it changes your brain, and it gives you a control over the energy flow inside of your body. If you are slowing down your happy thoughts or your attention, if you're putting your attention onto, what some will call doubt fagging, if you're pragmatic, and you're 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 minimizing, I won't say you're ruining it, because you're gonna fucking learn. You're gonna fucking learn. Nobody's gonna force you to learn, and you can't force anybody else to learn what you think you know. There is something, you are having this experience. There is something that is having this experience that is you. That is, you are having this experience within something bigger than you know or realize. And you are perceiving it. The first polarity, imagine, like, when you first come into existence, it's I am, and the purpose is what can I become, and it goes to what can I create with my deeds, and then what am I now, and then what have I become, and then what have I created, and what am I now. That is your life. What else can I become? What else can I create? And what am I now? It's a cycle. It's cyclical. It's a cycle of experience, and it's a cycle of karma and the observer. You know, you can hear and create your thoughts, and you can make your thoughts.